Hey guys, you know what I used to love? Coming home from high school, hopping on some Siege with the guys, playing way longer than we should have been, forgetting about the homework, and going back to school the next day like nothing happened. And then over the summer, you know what? We'd get up, we'd get on Overwatch, as many people as we could get in the party, and we'd just play as hard as we could, try to get up that ranked ladder to the big leagues. That's what life used to be about, man. And you know what I do now? I get home, back to my dorm after school, and I get on Siege with the guys, and hey, it's summer now. I'm out of college, so I get up and we get on Overwatch 2. I'm 20 years old. Let's get one thing off the table. This isn't my dorm. Let's just pretend it is. It feels like as a society we've kind of hit a new low, not in terms of the politics or the job market or the inflation, but the video games, the stuff that really matters. Think about it. Look at what used to be E3. In the upcoming game lineup that everybody's talking about, we've got Doom the Dark Ages, that just came out. We've got GTA 6, that's on everybody's minds. We've got Borderlands 4, we've got Fable. About a month ago already, we had the new Oblivion remaster. All these games are great, and everybody who's excited for them, completely warranted. I've been playing Oblivion, and I've been loving it. It's actually a really great time. My problem is that the biggest new game that launched out of nowhere and took everybody by surprise, and I see all over my feeds, happens to be a game from 2006. Now yeah, there's a lot of content I see about Doom the Dark Ages as well, and there's a lot of hype I see around GTA 6 of course, and it broke records immediately with how quickly people viewed the trailers. In the new game space, I've been hearing a lot about Clair Obscur Expedition 33, and that's a cool game, and I do actually really want to play it, but it's also another RPG that has turn-based combat and party mechanics. I can't help but notice a trend here. It's absolutely not saying that I don't like those games. I do like those games. I have a lot of hours in Baldur's Gate 3 despite never beating it and starting it about 6 different times because I just want to make the perfect build. But it is weird that there's studios that make these games that cost gazillions of dollars to make and produce, and yet they get stalked at the gate by Larian Studios or a handful of ex-Ubisoft folk. Something about games right now just feels off, and frankly, it extends beyond just the walls of video games. Let's talk about movies for a second. I'm no movie buff, but I do feel like there's definitely some comparisons you can make between the two industries and why things are taking a turn how they are. The first question is, why do we make so many movies now that look like this, that are also just movies that used to look like this? And it's not even like, oh, 3D animation, we've developed into a new society and new technologies. No, that's the same movie. It's just different now and looks like this. At the end of the day, I don't really mind these movies because they're for kids. I'm sure many 5-year-olds who saw the new Lilo and Stitch enjoyed it because it's a fun family movie. That's exactly what Disney always has set out to do. But for the Disney adults out there, I can understand that there's some problems to be addressed. If anything, I think a fair comparison is that the new Lilo and Stitch is Oblivion remastered for those 5-year-olds. It's something that's older and, while beloved, has some differences to how media is consumed today, and they sought to bring that up to a modern scale. Now that is the only time I will be defending anything that Disney has done in this video, because I don't want to play devil's advocate. I think the biggest question is, why was the biggest movie, at least in terms of online hype this year, about a block game from 2008? It's not like recycling old IPs and making a movie out of them is a new thing, but it definitely feels like it's ramped up in the quantity of those productions. Simply put, I think the same concept applies between the gaming companies and the movie studios. There's these companies that have a gazillion dollars to put out these live service slop fests that are exactly the same as these companies that have a gazillion dollars to spend on advertising, marketing, and merchandising on movies that lack the true nuance of what makes a film a film. I feel like I'm getting way too Brian Griffin right now, so I'm gonna move back to the nerd stuff. Like I said before, Overwatch 1 was goated. I used to play it all the time with my friends. I'd play it solo, almost entirely on PC. It was just a great experience for that type of genre. Of course, as somebody who played TF2, it kind of just made sense that I would end up playing it someday, but playing it with friends and having that close-knit competitive nature of Overwatch really did draw my attention. It's pretty easy to assume that when Overwatch 2 got announced, we were all super hyped for it because we were getting this campaign, these new features, new skins, new remodels, and lots of new graphical updates that the game was kind of starting to need. And then it came out, and most of that stuff didn't happen, and pretty much to this day, we still play Overwatch 1 because at this point, they're adding things back from the original game they took out just for the sake of it. As of right now, there's a bit going on where you can play the October patch from 2020, and that is pretty much exactly when I used to play, but exactly what it sounds like. Nostalgia bait. It's Fortnite OG. It's the first season of Apex returning. It's PUBG beta. It's any guy playing TF2 in 2025. It is simply nostalgia bait. But is it nostalgia bait for the sake of nostalgia being fun to reminisce on? Not really. It almost feels like these games do these sort of rewind events because they know that Back in the old days of the game, it was simpler and people enjoyed the simplicity of it. And now things have just gotten so out of hand and new and crazy that sometimes you just want to go back to when things made sense. If I want to be really mean about it, it's more or less they put the game in the gutter over the lifespan of it and they're trying to get back to what once was. Moving away from Overwatch, I think it's important that we talk about Siege since I already brought that up. And frankly, don't even get me started on Siege X. I don't really know what it's going to be. From the looks of it, it kind of sounded like an Overwatch 2 situation, but it's not exactly that. The game isn't shutting down, there are going to be graphical changes, there's going to be a lot of gameplay enhancements and new modes, and yeah, that sounds like Overwatch 2. The only difference is that you keep the same game and suddenly it's free to play. Okay, yeah, that sounds like Overwatch 2. I think that last part is what scares me the most. Having a free-to-play game has never inherently been a problem, but having no barrier to entry besides having the console or computer to play it on leaves the door open to some more shady tactics by the developers and more hacking tactics by the players. That's definitely not to say that Siege isn't already littered with cosmetics, battle passes, event passes, and a subscription service, but I just worry that it's somehow gonna get worse. Overall, I think it just feels like society's stuck in a rut. We keep remaking, remastering, and reinventing things that we once liked just to kind of keep the same user base around because we know things that are familiar to us. Frankly, it feels like we've invested a lot of our content making efforts into what makes the most money rather than what brings the most emotion. At the end of the day, games, movies, and music are all forms of art, and it doesn't feel right that we're sort of optimizing those for a capitalist environment than just making art to make art. I also want to say that I'm not saying that art is dead, there's never anything new, everything's in the gutter, because that is not entirely the case. I find new music I enjoy quite often, and I find new movies that strike my interest more rarely than I'd like to admit, but things still are coming out that are interesting and new and fresh. But it's hard for those things to break through when they're in a market that is saturated with the same 20 characters that were invented in 2011 when they were actually invented in 1965. At the end of this all, I think it's important that we all just kind of take a step back. Look at what we've created and what we play and engage with every day, because at the end of it, we've been playing the same stuff for a long time. I know I like to joke that I'm getting old, but really, we've been playing Fortnite for 8 years. We've been playing Siege for 10, Overwatch for 8, Rocket League for 10, and Munch's Odyssey for the Xbox for 24. Again, there's not really a solution to this, it's more of just something that you gotta recognize. You gotta know that you are engaging with the same content forever, and maybe there's not entirely new themes, and of course there could be new reinventions of characters that you've seen before. The Batman is a goated film. But that being said, there's a lot of things that just simply aren't that. The best way to get around this is to just know when you're watching things just to watch things. Know that sometimes maybe it's a good idea to cut through the slop and actually watch something you've been meaning to watch or had on your list or your shelf for a long time. Maybe put down the competitive 5v5 tactical shooter and pick up a story-based game that you've been hearing a lot about. There's a lot of ways we engage with media, and we shouldn't see it as something that's simply a part of existing to go home and turn off our brains and watch Netflix, but something that we inherently want to consume because it's something that changes us or makes us feel things or makes us see the world in new lights, because that's what art is about. I don't want to yammer on for too long, so if you enjoyed this video of me just kind of yammering about problems that I see again, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, ring that bell, do all that stuff. I don't know how much it matters. It's been great having you, and I'll see you in the next one.